Hello, this is Ted Goldsboro with Living History. We're continuing with Jerry Francis, president of the Lower Merion Historical Society. We're talking about the Historical Society's involvement in the renovation of the Cynwyd Railroad Station in Bala Cynwyd. Jerry, let's keep on going now. We've got some more interior shots.
We got up to the point was that it was decided, the SEPTA and the township decided this was a building worth rescuing. And they had asked the Historical Society to see if we could take on the project. So one of the earlier things we had to do is go in and take a look at the inside. The last picture we looked at in the other segment was the basement area. The first floor had, because the timbers had rotted, had really sunken. We had gone up to the second floor. This is what the second floor looked like. It had been totally gutted. The floor had been rotted out, and it was if you walk through there, you could fall into the first floor. These pictures were hard to take because there was no lights up there, so we had to bring in some utility lamps, light it up to just find our way in. This is also another example of the second floor.
This almost looks like a fire, but
this was one of the bedrooms. The old wallpaper that had been off. It just was demolition by neglect at this point, and you can tell no one had been up here for many decades, and it was just again in distress.
In the old days, Jerry, a station master and his family might live in the station.
The first floor was divided in half. Half of it was the waiting room for the commuters, and the ticket agent was there. The other half was the living room for the station master, and then there was a stairwell up to the second floor, and there was 4 bedrooms up there for the children and the family to live in. So the station master, the trains in those days ran 7 days a week and throughout the entire day. So the station master, instead of coming to work, you lived there. So that was your house.
Okay. Now we're changing. Who are these people? What are they doing?
So finally, it was agreed to that there was an agreement between SEPTA and the township. They would lease the building to the Historical Society, and a plan was put together. Funding, a third of the money would come from the Montgomery County, a third of the money for the renovations would come from the township, and the Historical Society would pick up the other third of the tab. And with some other extra money, that niceties that SEPTA would have to do as we got through the project, if there was anything. So it was formalized back in November 2007. This is a picture at the township building of the signing of the agreement between all the different groups, SEPTA, the Township, and Historical Society, that the Historical Society would take on this project of the revitalization of the Cynwyd train station. An important ingredient in this is, I think, we also engaged a company called Broadlands Financial. They were a surety company that they would be the clerk of the works, so all the money was really transferred into their accounts. They sent out their people to check the work to make sure it met standards. They paid the bills, and again, that's what surety companies do, to make sure that all the money was spent correctly, wisely, etc. And they were audited and everything like that. So we were dealing with a fair amount of money, different contractors, all the legalities that work with the contractors' agreements, things like that. So there's a lot of paperwork behind this. It wasn't just a handshake. So
at that time, was Broadlands in Bala Cynwyd?
They were located out in Villanova.
Okay.
A guy named Ken Breyer, the one on the left here, was connected with Broadlands Financial at that time. So he, in fact, their services were donated to the project. So there was a lot of pro bono work in here. And we had given the contract to Mr. Easter at that time.
Okay.
So this is a formal signing in November of 2007, and then the next thing we started to work on the fundraising for the Historical Society to do our share.
Let's mention this. I mean, we mentioned Ken Breyer, but could we get some other names in here?
The key people here was Doug Cleland, obviously being the township manager at the time. Also to his his left, my right here is Bruce Reed. At that time, Bruce was the president of the Board of Commissioners. Of course, I'm there. And behind him is Ken Breyer, Chris Leswing. Also over toward the center is Jim Easter. He was the one that was awarded the contract We'll talk about Jim in a few minutes. Behind them is Leon Levine. He's the treasurer for the Lower Merion Historical Society. George Brosman is there. He's the Historical Society zoning person. Of course, Bob Duncan's around all the time. He's part of everything that happens. And there's Joanne Murray, who's a member of the board of directors for the Historical Society, was a supporter. So we did just a photo op, official signing.
Thanks. I put those names in because when the public sees them, they might wonder who they are.
Okay.
All right, what's this image?
Well, the next image, we once you have a, we needed a vision. So we asked one of our neighbors, Dan Russinello, who's an architect, to draw what we might look like when we had completed the project in regards to the vision. And over this time, before it was just started as a, let's rescue this old building in the middle of Bala Cynwyd. Also at the same, then the idea of the Cynwyd Trail came along. And they said, oh, well, let's make a connection here. So what we're showing here, that the train, the old station, instead of just being there as a, you know, for the commuters, fixing it up, a safe place, etc., maybe should be a good, the ideal location for a trailhead for the Cynwyd Heritage Trail. So we worked with the township on this and the Friends of the Cynwyd Heritage Trail. And this is the vision that when they, you know, the trail would go down to the Cynwyd station, how the connections would look and what the purpose of the station was. So this was for our campaign, our model that we did show around that, like, this is the end product if you support our project.
Kind of a dream of what it's going to look like.
Yeah, we have to have a vision, a target to go for.
Now you have in your
I brought
hand,
the brochure along. Is, you know, part of it is we just didn't want the. It's not a government project. We was funded by the county and the township, but there was we wanted, you know, the Historical Society to participate, which means we had to do some fundraising. A lot of pro bono labor was involved, and we wanted a community project. Everyone had a chance to do something. It isn't just, you know, government doing it for them. So we did put together this you know, brochure talking about the Cynwyd station, and we also, to make it more relevant, more timely, is the we decided to make it a green building in the sense that it isn't like just rip everything out and put everything new in. It had the challenge of the timbering was a major issue. So a lot of it was the, as I mentioned, the old growth full cut lumber. Once you know, we took that, we were able to salvage about 45% of the lumber. We actually took the building apart, put it back together, go to old houses that were demolished in Philadelphia, reclaim some of that lumber because it was the size properly, so we could take it over there and put it back together. So we reclaimed. We just didn't want all the debris to go into a dump, you know, et cetera. So, so that was another, you know, a facet to encourage people to donate, because it was a, it wasn't just a scrape and clean. It was recycling, which is a big thing today.
Today, the kids have Lego blocks and they build things out of them. And like Lincoln Logs, I mean, you took this apart and then put it back together again. And here's a photograph.
Well, the next thing was, again, I said it was, the agreement was signed in November of 2007. We contract went to JECB Construction, which is the Jim Easter was the general manager. He was awarded the contract. It took him another 1 or 2 months to mobilize, and one of the first things he had to do is, once we got access, gained access to the building, was get the exterminators in to clean everything out, make it safe, get rid of the asbestos. Then we were able to go and enter the building. Since we did put up the sign outside, you know, Cynwyd Train Station Revitalization Project, and these were the principles involved. So anytime you have a construction project, you announce to the community. This was a big sign up along Conshohocken State Road, you know, letting the community know what was going on, who was doing it, and also where was the funding coming from.
And for those of us who love the station, we were so happy to see this sign, like, this is progress, people are in charge, something's going to happen. Now we have a few minutes left before our first segment is done here.
The first contractor, and again, there was a number of reasons it took so long, 6 years to do it. The first contractor was Jim Easter. He was the one that was very much involved with the revitalization and repairs to the Lower Merion Academy. So he is familiar with this type of construction, and he was awarded the contract, and he went in there and he worked with us, and he was a wonderful gentleman, and he started the project. So this is the first contractor. Unfortunately, he was there for about 1.5 years, and he had a sudden heart attack and passed away. So that delayed the project even further because we had to shut everything down, put everything out to bid again, and start up again. So it was sad. He was really in love with the project. This is a picture of some of his work crew when he was inside. This is Jim's on the far right, and in the center again there's George Brosman. He's our lawyer for the zoning, and people would come over and see the progress of what he was doing as he was stripping the building apart. But he was missed.
Jim Easter employees?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where are you standing there?
We're standing in the first floor of the building.
Okay.
Yeah. At
All
that
right,
time.
we have 2 minutes until we have to end this show, but let's continue going.
Well, we're doing pretty good, but the first thing when they had to do when they got inside was to, they found that the foundation walls had been completely compromised. That's why everything was sinking. So they actually had to jack up the building. The men had to go down and rebuild all the foundation walls, which was fieldstone, that had picked up, and then they had to drop the building back down again.
To level the foundation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Only as good as your foundation. This is a picture of when they were working in the basement. So they could do the foundation walls, they had to support the rotten timbers. So while they were working down there, the first floor didn't fall down on them. So there was a lot of structural supports. Again, this shows the termites going on.
Now, we're going to have to take a break here, and we'll come back in a second show. But this is Ted Goldsborough, and we're talking with Jerry Francis about the renovation of the Cynwyd train station in Bala Cynwyd. And we'll have another show at another time.